Namaskar and very good afternoon. Good morning, rather. Dr. Vats, Chairman of WIPS, Professor A.C. Pandey, Director of IUAC, Dr. Ashwini Sharma, Director General, all eminent guests, panelists, members of faculty, and students. It's a great honor to be here today and speaking to you on G20 in the context of future technologies in India. Friends, we are only a week away from the great event that we have been looking forward to, for which we have been preparing for last 1 year. India became president of G20 group on 1st December last year, and since then we have been advancing the G20 agenda successfully. Over the last few months, and I can say so, G20 has become a part of our everyday lexicon. If there is one word which has been added to our vocabulary during last 12 months, it's a G20. Wherever I have traveled from north to south, from east to west, and very remote locations, places like Lakshadweep, or Andaman and Nicobar Islands, or Diu, or Dimapur in the east, people are well aware of the role of India as the president of G20. They may not understand all the implications and intricacies of a diplomatic process like G20, but they understand that something good is happening in the country, and out of which India's position in the world is going to be further solidified. As we meet today, we have already done more than 200 meetings in almost 60 locations. So that has been a tough task for the G20, the presidency. No other country has ever done more than 25 locations. This has been done under the vision of Prime Minister that the process has to be inclusive. And that's one term which will define our the G20 legacy. Inclusive, both nationally as well as globally. So when we talk about inclusion at national level, the very fact that we are taking all these meetings to different parts of the world, different parts of the country, has been inspired by the vision to make people a part of the process. That's the inclusiveness. And at the global level, to take along many countries which are not on the G20 table, but take their aspirations, their concerns and interests to the high table. So that's how our inclusive approach defines G20, the presidency. The topic today is very topical, and I will come in the context of the G20 priorities, how science, technology, and research are part of the G20 deliberations. Let me, as you see, there are 7 petals in our logo. Let me speak on how India's G20 presidency is unique through 7 petals. The first is creating an effective operational and organizational structure under the leadership of the Prime Minister himself. G20 presidency is in the name of the Prime Minister. So the leader shapes the agenda, and he is also shaping the organizational part of the process. Early last year, a cabinet decision was taken through which a G20 secretariat was created, and at the hem of the affairs is Prime Minister himself, who leads an apex committee consisting of a few ministers. And then we have the secretariat to help him in implementing the vision so far as the substance of the meeting is concerned, and also how these meetings should be organized all over the country. When we took over, we had a logo and theme decided, and we are all aware about the logo and the theme. There's a website, and I will encourage you to download our app. Over next 10 days, you will find multiple information on the G20, the summit, and associated aspects. The second aspect of our unique approach is the unifying voice. The world is divided into camps, north and south. There is a club of rich countries, and there is a club of those countries which are leaving behind. So when we became president, the political vision has been, let's unify the world in terms of overall approach, and India is in a unique position to become a bridge maker. And this unifying voice is captured in both logo and the theme. What is the theme? The theme is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And this task, when it was given to us last July, August, to find a concept or notion which characterizes our civilizational ethos. It was left upon the secretariat and the people. We brainstormed, we came over several ideas, and finally the decision was taken to adopt the key phrase which comes from Upanishad, the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And then we discovered that this has, when we are talking about unifying voice, this captures so well the contemporary challenges. So one earth, one family, and one future. So whether you are from global north or global south, whether you are from India or from Mexico, it's one planet. So when we talk about climate change, we have to have a pro-planet approach. And when we talk about one world, one earth, it's in entirety. It's not only the human beings, all kinds of creatures, plants, and different species is also part of that one earth notion. So our theme, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, has become a catchphrase, and it's now remembered by people across the world. How India has been so eloquently and beautifully able to capture the contemporary challenges and connect with our own civilizational heritage. Similarly, the logo, where you see the lotus, which again is our national flower. But lotus symbolizes rise against adversity. So, last few years we have seen multiple kinds of adversities, and one of them was the COVID-19 challenge. I was India's ambassador in New Zealand, and I can see how the geographies were separated, how peoples were separated, and we had no idea in March 2020 when this disease struck the whole world. So we have gone through multiple challenges, and the lotus, our national flower, symbolizes growth or rise against all kinds of adversities. The third aspect is how to advance G20 agenda. You might have read how G20 was born and has evolved over last 2.5 decades. But each president can reorient, can focus some of the areas which are under discussion of the G20 group. We thought that while focusing on inclusive and resilient growth, focusing on attainment of sustainable development goals, green development, women-led development, we'll also speak about an aspect which connects with this summit which is taking place at WIPS. That's technological transformation. We found that India is in a lead position to showcase to the world that through adoption of technologies, particularly in the digital sector, we can leapfrog development. Chairman mentioned about a quote from Mr. Nilekani, and I was present in that where he was speaking. And Mr. Nilekani says that what we have done through digital transformation and inclusion in 9-10 years, it would have taken almost 50 years to achieve that. Now that's a big message coming from India. India, which is developing, we are not in a developed nation, but how adoption of technologies in certain sectors, we have been able to leapfrog and catch up. So today, the whole world, mostly countries from the developing Africa, Latin America, or Asia, they are looking at India and they want to learn. And we thought that through G20, we will spread the message of technological transformation. So when we talk about development, it's not only finance that the world requires, it also requires enhanced use of technologies which can change the lives and futures of the countries. In the G20 process, there are some working groups and initiatives which focus on science and technology issues, and I should share the information. In the working groups, we have some working groups, for instance, energy transition or health. There is a working group on digital economy, where some of the aspects relating to the technologies which you will be discussing over the next 2 days are touched upon. What happens in diplomatic event or diplomatic process like G20? We talk about implications of the emerging technologies, and many times, apart from the socio-economic implications of those technologies, one aspect which government also talks about is regulation. Whether the technology is beneficial for the mankind, it should not get out of hand, and how to make them and adapt them to the requirement of the present times. So for instance, in IT, when we talk about information technology, we also talk about cyber security. When we talk about cryptocurrency, we are talking about how to regulate the misuse of cryptocurrency. Can it just remain in the digital world, or we have to develop some norms and guidelines so that emerging technology can be regulated? Or the use of artificial intelligence, can be just left to the users? Nations have no role in overall maintaining some kind of order in the digital world. So some of these threads keep on being discussed when science and technology administrators of participating countries participate. Apart from these working groups, there is an engagement group called Science 20, where institutions related in the field of science and technology, they discuss, apart from the government, the issues, the emerging technologies, and this was laid, and we had a successful Science 20 Summit, and you would not believe the Science 20 Summit took place in the Isha Foundation in Coimbatore. Now you will ask, what has Isha Foundation, a spiritual home, to do with the science? We deliberately picked up when Sadhguru approached us. We thought how to, the humanity, science, how we should humanize science and technology. That was the message which came from the setting. Otherwise, generally meeting on science and technology will not take place in an ashram. And I was personally there, and I could say the way the science and its implications was explained during our 3 days stay at Isha Foundation was very encouraging and inspiring. As I said in the beginning, the feature of our approach is expressing the voice of the developing world, which is called the Global South in contemporary language. In January, India invited presidents, prime ministers of 125 countries in a virtual mode for a discussion on challenges in the Global South. We cannot call ourselves champion of the Global South without consulting them. Somebody can say that, hey, on what basis India claims that you have understood our problems? So we adopted a pragmatic approach. We had this virtual consultations with 125 countries, mostly from Africa, Latin America, and Asia, to understand their problems, challenges, and aspirations. And now India is well qualified, better qualified, I would say, to represent the voice of the Global South. One of the key achievements, most likely, from the New Delhi summit would be inclusion of African Union as a permanent member of the of G20. The next point in our approach is narrating India's story. What has happened during last 75 years, as we had our Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, and we look forward to next 25 years to emerge as a confident and developed nation. This is the time to narrate stories about India and share our perspective. So this is a golden opportunity that the world leaders will when they come, and I will show how when we're doing the program, it's all there. For instance, during last 1 year, you might have seen many hoardings. India, the mother of democracy. Right. For many years, the whole world thought that democracy was born in Greece, and India became democracy only after independence. And so democracy was imported, and as if our civilizational heritage, there was nothing. That's an incorrect portrayal of our contribution to the world. So now there are many studies which establish that in fact, the experimentation and roots of democracy lie here. In Vedas, there are concept of Sabha and Samiti. It may not exactly like Janatantra and Ganatantra as we understand today. But what is Sabha and Samiti? It is a deliberative forum. You are gathering and you are ascertaining the opinion and voice of the people. That's the basic tenet of democracy. So we are going to focus on this. And if you see our app, G20 app, we have just uploaded a flip book yesterday. There are some 30 pages, and you can download Bharat, the Mother of Democracy. You will see how we are narrating this story to leaders. Technology, as I said, we will be speaking about it. how India has made progress not only in the area of vaccine production and digital space. Now the other day we landed at moon from southern pole. So these are some of the success stories. We are creating what is called a Digital India Experience Zone at Pragati Maidan, where the delegates, the media people and leaders can have some idea of our digital prowess. We'll also going to showcase our cultural achievements, and there is a crafts exhibition sale coming up at Pragati Maidan, where all states and union territories will be participating, promoting one district, one product, and the GI tag items. Finally, and this came from the Honorable Prime Minister himself. He said that made G20 as people's G20, and that was a beautiful thought. Over last 1 year, we have really made G20 into people's G20, and this has happened through multiple manner. One is, of course, taking the meetings to different parts of the country, 60 locations. I'll give one example. We had one meeting on research and innovation gathering in Diu. And this meeting, which was happening in Diu University, for the first time in the history of Diu, they had an international meeting. They never had even an international conference at academic level. So the whole place was geared up, and they were immensely thankful to G20 that DIU had been put on a global map, and they had an opportunity to organize an international meeting. Now, what happens when an international meeting is happening in place like DIU? The whole town was prepared. We created capacity. There were training program for all the professor became liaison officer. For the first time, they read up about countries, because some professor or some associate professor, they were attached as a liaison officer to UK delegation. Now they had to brush up not only the knowledge about DIU, but also about UK. So they brushed up their English. There was training program for Uber Wala. There were training program for local police officials. So by making into a G20 event, the whole idea is to create capacity in the country. Friend, when the task was given last July to me, I didn't have any toolkit. I didn't have any precedent. There was no guidelines of the government. We never had this kind of event, whether in diplomatic field or sports field. So we created our own roadmap. We have created benchmark, and now there is a toolkit. And so the next generation, which is has been exposed to the G20 meetings, they will be ready. And I can tell you, when India wins an opportunity to host an Olympics, the country would be ready. So that's the contribution of G20 for the country. Thank you very much.